You're convinced this is love, but it doesn't feel like it. Your friends and your family see the red flags. They beg you to leave, but you go back. They disrespect you. They demean you. You go back again. They shout. They scream. They threaten. They might even do worse, and still you go back. But why? Over 60 million women and 50 million men in the U.S. have been emotionally or physically abused by someone they trusted. Trauma bonding isn't love, it's a pattern. I'm Jourdan Travers, a psychotherapist, and today we're breaking down the science of trauma bonding and how you can break a cycle. Sign number 1, they're your addiction. For centuries, people have said it in 1,000 ways. Things like, I'm addicted to you, or I need you like a drug. But researchers from the University of Oxford wanted to find out the neuroscience to the addiction of love. Their question was deceptively simple. Is love addictive? Not metaphorically, but literally. And the answer was yes. Love can hijack your brain like a drug, triggering the same chemicals, cravings, and withdrawal symptoms as real addiction. So the next question was, exactly how addictive can love become for some people? The researchers found that the more intense the love, the obsessive, desperate, all-consuming, the more it mirrors true addiction. They described it as behavioral addiction, triggered by repeated emotional highs and lows, and reinforced through neurotransmitters, such as dopamine. In their words, love becomes addictive when it turns extreme, destructive, or maladaptive. That's when you start craving the person like a drug. But that's not all of it. In a peer-reviewed paper, clinical psychologist Dr. Miranda Olf explained what happens in the body after trauma, particularly the role of oxytocin, the neuropeptide often called the bonding hormone. Oxytocin is usually associated with love, trust, and safety. It helps new mothers bond with infants. It strengthens closeness and healthy relationships. But under conditions of trauma, it behaves differently. Olf reviewed findings across animal and human studies and found that after traumatic stress, the oxytocin system becomes dysregulated. Here's what that means. In some trauma survivors, oxytocin levels increase, not to create safety, but to enhance attachment to anyone perceived as a source of support, even if that source is the abuser, especially when there's no one else. This can create what researchers refer to as trauma-induced bonding, a neurochemical loop where the brain strengthens attachment to someone involved in or surrounding the trauma itself. She points to studies where individuals exposed to trauma experienced increased oxytocin and sought out social closeness, even with figures that contributed to their stress. So in simple terms, your body is trying to protect you by reinforcing connection. But when love and fear come from the same person, oxytocin can deepen the bond and not break it. So when your mind says, but he's all I have, that's not the truth. That's a neurochemical response and something that you can change. But then there's another question. Why do some people stay longer? Why does the bond feel unbreakable for some, even when others see the danger clearly? A 2023 study from a team of psychologists in the U.S. looked at exactly that. They worked with 354 people, all of whom were currently in emotionally and physically unsafe relationships. The researchers wanted to know, what personal history or traits make someone more likely to form a strong, painful attachment that they can't let go of? Here's what they found. People who had experienced childhood maltreatment, things like neglect, instability, or inconsistent caregiving, were significantly more likely to form these intense, hard-to-break bonds. But there was something else. Attachment insecurity, the fear of being abandoned, the need to cling even when it hurts, the belief that love always comes with pain. Those who had both early relational trauma and insecure attachment were the most vulnerable. Their childhood wounds primed them to bond with people who felt familiar, even if familiar meant chaotic, inconsistent, or unsafe. And it didn't end there. The deeper the bond, the more likely these individuals were to experience symptoms of post-traumatic stress, like emotional numbness, hypervigilance, nightmares, and reliving distressing moments. Sign number 2, You justify, minimize, or blame yourself for their behavior. You don't say they're abusive, just sometimes a little mean. You say, they're not a bad person, they're just hurt. You still love them, even after the violence and trauma. You stay even when you are still fearful. I want you to listen to me. What you feel at the moment is not love, but a trauma bond. And it's intensified by something you wouldn't expect. Your empathy. In a 2022 study, researchers wanted to understand why some people stay deeply attached to someone even when the relationship is filled with fear, emotional, and physical pain. They worked with 345 women, all of whom had experienced intense and distressing relationship dynamics. Each participant completed surveys measuring emotional empathy and traumatic bonding. The results were clear. The women who scored highest in empathy were also the ones most likely to feel intensely bonded to their partner, even when they were still hurting. The more they cared, the harder it became for them to walk away. Why? Because their empathy kept rewriting the story. It told them they're going through something, or that I can help fix this. One woman said that she stayed because she understood what they had been through. Another said she saw past the behavior because he wasn't like this before. And that's the trap the researchers uncovered. When empathy is high, so is the likelihood of staying, even in cycles of harm. So if you find yourself constantly excusing what keeps hurting you, if your first instinct is to understand them instead of protecting yourself, you need to pause for a moment and remind yourself that I am a person too. I can get hurt as well, and I can also feel things too. Leaving someone you are trauma bonded with isn't easy. In one of the first real studies on trauma bonding, researchers followed 75 women who had just left harmful relationships. They found this: the more unpredictable the mistreatment and the greater the power imbalance, the stronger the emotional grip. Even 6 months later, the bond hadn't disappeared. Attachment had only dropped by 27%. And the relationship dynamics alone explained over half of the lingering attachment. Recovery isn't linear. Many return, and many feel like they're starting from scratch. But let me tell you, with consistency, it is possible. I've seen that recovery arc in my patients. Before you can break free from a trauma bond, you first need to recognize that you're in one. Because this isn't love, it's a pattern. And patterns can be broken. I'm Jourdan Travers. I'm the clinical director at Awake Therapy. And if you need guidance to break free from bonds that are hurting you, you can find my information in the booking link below. And until next time, bye.